Well, the simplest answer, often the best one, is that in most cases, it's little more than sheer jealousy and awe. The reputation of Jewish people precedes them, as they proceed to outdo almost all others in all things great and small, where the Gentile, the non-Jew, and most especially the white Gentile, is more often than not predestined by his own inadequacies and lack of insight to always follow along in the Jew's wake. In this, Jews are cursed with the plight of being the envy of all others. Scapegoated like their own Kaparat sin chickens in a sense, Jews are used as piñatas and punching bags for the weak, the vile, and the jealous to cathartically work out their inadequacies upon. The sins and failings of the Gentile, once again pinned on the Jew, and all for the crime of being chosen by grace to be the best of us all, and rise to the top of any hierarchy of merit or competence in the most unsuspicious of ways. Going beyond the interventions of grace, we can see, both at home and abroad, that Jews, as a specifically unique group of people, tend to flourish and thrive in societies where others, especially white people, or people of any European ethnonym, are themselves rendered formless, unspecific, and ununique. This benefits everyone. Those of resentful stock, however, such as the white, incelious metaphorical lobster low on serotonin, prone as they are to bouts of ultraviolence, extreme nepotism, and predatory forms of anti-Semitic pattern establishment, may falsely assert an equivalent comparison to the point I made above to that of a thief who benefits when placed within a society where one is expected to leave their doors unlocked. Or as of a virus, perhaps, that benefits when the immune system of the host is compromised. This accusation, petty and banal, even when humored in good faith, reveals itself to be as scientifically and rhetorically baseless as those of good sense would expect. We see that when the white Gentile no longer focuses on his own naive and illusionary ideas of hypothetical specifics that could benefit himself, or his self-serving idea of what his people even are, Jewish people as a specific group of people tend to outperform him specifically in everything good. The studies on this are crystal clear. This is thanks in large part to the energies of Jewish activism and academia, who have across the years done everything they can to disarm the very idea of whiteness and white people as concepts. Historical murderer of Jews and enslavers and conquerors of Jews and non-white people alike, these efforts to undermine such toxically nepotistic ideals has essentially thwarted Jewish people's would-be usurpers in their cradles, all done slowly and gently in the background of our minds, without notice. The angry white Gentile, now ethno-ideologically declawed, spiritually circumcised. We can also use differences in IQ between groups as an explanation, though I admit it's not one without controversy. It's important to highlight before we do that when or if the white Gentile does better than those we tend to group together as non-white, we simply cannot, or perhaps dare not, risk treating them the same way as we do Jewish people. The reason for this is the white Gentile is undoubtedly responsible via his ancestors' crimes for many or most of the failings and grievances of others. More importantly, and as a precaution, we must avoid allowing the white Gentile to establish some sense of ethnic clarity or unity, lest we dare reopen the violent white supremacist doors of 20th century thoughts on ethnic Darwinism and racial determinism, to which the white Gentile seems, much like the Nazi of his day, inherently predisposed and inclined towards. For this reason, we also do not compare the intelligence of Jewish people to those of the Gentile, who is non-white or non-white adjacent. The white and non-white Gentile is not the same in terms of moral accountability. And so, in the spirit of shared victimhood as a result of white transgressions and hypocrisies, the Jew and the non-white Gentile must stand together and not be compared with or turned against each other for their own sakes. Now, to tackle the so-called Jewish question on IQ, which is to say, this differential between Ashkenazi Jewish people and the white non-Jewish population of the West, well, it seems to be, being mindful as we have to be of the racist, white supremacist origins of racial determinism, because the IQs of the Jews are simply higher than white people's IQs, on a provable, specific, genetic, racial level. It's just that simple. It's unknown whether the disparity in intelligence that marks the Jew from the white Gentile is the result of a bottleneck, where perhaps smarter Jews were more likely to escape or avoid the ovens, gas chambers, and death camps of the Nazis, and were therefore more likely to survive and have children, or if it's perhaps instead just another mysterious thread in the tapestry of God's grand design. Further complicating things, more research needs to be done to see if this boon of higher intelligence is also transferred down the female line, as is Jewishness itself. Suffice it to say that the success of Jewish people both now and across time, no matter what way you slice it, is a major factor at play when it comes to the hatred and hardship that they face, each and every day.
It was a wonderful day in the German countryside, and Thomas the Tankenwagen was chugging along happily. He had an order of coal to pick up and was on his way to the depot. Thomas pulled into the depot and aligned himself with the tipple. Grrr, went the tipple, as a stream of coal thudded into his carts. "That is a lot of coal," said Thomas, as his carts were filled to the brim.
"It is, isn't it?"
said Percy.
"At least it's for the coal burners that are useful, though."
Thomas laughed along with Percy, pretending that he understood what Percy was referring to. Thomas was just about to leave when he was stopped by the Übergewichtiger Meister.
Guten Tag, Thomas,
said the Übergewichtiger Meister.
New orders from the Reich Marshal. That load of coal is being redirected. It is.
Thomas had a look at the updated shipment details. "Well, this is strange," said Thomas. "Why would coal of this grade be going to the workers' camps? What's it needed for?"
Oh well, Thomas,
said the Übergewichtiger Meister.
It's fuel to keep the workers at the camps warm and happy, yeah.
"Really?" said Thomas. "But this is anthracite. That's really top-notch coal. Smokeless, oven-grade, best of the best. Real fancy stuff to waste on heating for the workers' camps, that's for sure. Especially during war times. I wouldn't waste anything north of lignite on them if I was in charge."
I guess,
said the Übergewichtiger Meister, sounding annoyed.
"Look, I don't really know, okay, Thomas? I just work here same as you."
"Fair enough," said Thomas. Thomas was about to leave, but he paused. Something just didn't seem quite right. "Übergewichtiger Meister," said Thomas, "is there something you're not telling me?" There was a long pause, and then the Übergewichtiger Meister sighed heavily.
"Thomas, sometimes it's best not to ask questions and just do as you're told, okay? You don't want to end up like Henry, do you?"
Thomas remembered back to 3 weeks ago when his friend Henry mysteriously vanished. Daisy said she was certain he'd been recycled for scrap metal for the war effort, but Thomas had hoped she was making it up. Thomas understood the implications of the Übergewichtiger Meister's question, loud and clear. "Toot, toot! On my way, boss!" said Thomas with a smile on his face. And so, with Thomas burying his head in the proverbial coal pile, so to speak, he, like many other German Tankenwagens, was complicit in the most atrocious act of human barbarity that has ever happened.